step 4. Step 4 is, yes, next steps. Prioritize next steps. So, based on our inferences and what we've seen so far, what will be our...
I think we already had the prioritize next step. Were
Yes.
we just talking about that?
Yes.
Okay. Or at least for the proficient.
Yes.
I know it's one of the
We do have the
steps.
proficient next steps already done.
Yeah.
We just have to agree on the strategies that we are going to use. So since we've got the proficient done for their next steps, our prioritized next step would be create and explicate their own political cartoons.
And I think that's perfect for them.
I think so too.
When we're talking strategies, we mean activities.
When we're talking strategy, we're talking, all right, so our prioritized next step is we want them at the creation level. That's what's most important. So how are we going to get them there? How are we going to teach this activity? Any ideas?
I think that we could, first we're going to have them come up with a systematic way of creating them. So maybe analyzing previous ones and then saying, okay, well this is what goes into a political cartoon, now do it yourself.
Okay, so we want to,
explain that thoroughly.
what do we want to say, non-linguistic representations is our strategy, our focal point for those,
Yeah.
for that group. So non-linguistic representations. What sort of, all right, column 2 is learning environment. So how do we see them being able to accomplish this? Do we think that this is going to be and obviously everybody in the class can benefit from an activity such as this. Do we think this is going to be an individual activity, group, pairs?
Pairs.
Okay.
Or,
Big
I
group
don't know.
might get kind of distracted. But
Because
Right.
one student may be doing all the work, especially if they're an artist, they may be doing all the work, and you want everyone involved. So I think pairs would be
Okay.
really well, so they can collaborate together. And obviously, if we pair them up, knowing who we're pairing each other up, with,
Exactly.
then it will benefit both
Exactly.
parties.
All right.
Learning environment will be pairs.
Yep. What about time, frequency, and duration? And now, obviously, this won't be the only instructional activity we do. We'll still have sense of the day, writing invitation, all that good stuff, and probably some reading as we get through the novel. So, how do y'all feel about 3 days?
3 days works fine, because it'll give them a chance to kind of brainstorm, put it together, and put the finishing touches on it.
if we try to do it in one day, it would be.
Oh,
It
yes,
wouldn't
no.
be done.
No, that's not my kids.
Yeah.
3 days. Okay, materials for teachers and students.
We need poster paper,
We will, and I'm out.
some sort of markers.
Poster paper, markers.
Now we're gonna have them create giant posters of it, or like a computer-sized sheet of paper poster. What do you guys think?
I'm thinking like maybe have them do it on something computer paper size, put it on the poster paper, and then they can draw their explanations out on the side.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Either that
Yeah,
or
I like
that.
that too.
That would be like a big graphic that all you gotta do is put it on the wall, people can look at it.
And it's also a teaching tool.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. So poster paper and computer paper, markers.
Obviously their brains.
Obviously their brains. Well, and there's going to have to be a little front loading there with the
Yeah.
notes, the definitions.
Mhm.
So let's put definitions in the materials. All right. And assignments and assessments. Where will the students be required to use the strategy? That would be in the creation of political cartoons. So the non-linguistic representation is used in this creation. Great. All right. Students close to proficient. Students close to proficient. We talked a lot about symbolism. We talked about looking beyond the most obvious answer. So what if we said our prioritized next step to determine text-to-world connections between political cartoons and current events?
I think that would be
Okay.
very
That would work.
beneficial. And it'll help them kind of think outside of the box by doing that as well.
might, and it also increased that background knowledge, which, you know, as we get to EOC, they've just got to be able to make those text-to-world connections. All right, so selected strategies. Now, I know that we've brainstormed a lot, and we've talked about a lot of different things. Is there anything that sticks out with y'all as being a good idea to help create these connections?
What if we took Hal's idea of having the posters where they create it and then they write on the side of them? What if we did that where we gave them political cartoons and then put them on a sheet of poster paper and in their groups? Because I think we're all set up in some sort of group collaborative learning setting, and in their groups they all worked and they wrote on that poster paper.
But they're
kind of
analyzed
analyzed it.
So we give it to them, and then they do that, and that could help lead them all into the next step
Yeah,
of
it's kind of
creating.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
scaffold
think that's
into
good.
it.
So what are we going to call it? Our instructional strategy?
Poster analysis?
Works for me. Poster analysis. And we said that would be a collaborative learning strategy, so that'd be small groups.
So we're gonna stick with the small ones, okay, small group.
Well, we'll need to do some front loading with direct instruction.
Yeah.
We just will, and that'll definitely help our intervention students.
Yeah, because I mean, you're going to have to show them directly how to analyze
Right.
the political cartoons
Right,
as
so
well.
modeling and whatnot.
So direct, and then segue into the small groups when they actually do the posters. Got it.
All right, now we're looking at 2 weeks to teach the unit. How many times would we want to try and get this in?
About 2 maybe?
Okay, so
a couple
at least
times.
once a
I
week?
don't want to do it every day,
Right.
because it will be a lengthy activity, but I think once a week would be ideal.
And if we're doing the other things, yeah, I'd say
Right.
more than once a week. So
Weekly,
weekly's
over the
good.
duration of our mini unit. Sounds good. Materials.
Poster paper
Yes, ma'am.
seems to be pretty popular.
It really does. Poster paper, well, we'll need the cartoons too.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when we do this, are we going to focus on the era that we're studying, the civil rights era?
I think I don't think it has to be the civil rights era. I think as long as it just relates to the overall themes of tolerance and social justice.
Yeah, because
Because
there's
we
good
can
stuff from
include
today.
we can include modern day ones.
Okay.
Because as long as they all tie in together.
Right. I
And
think
we
you're
also
right.
make those text-to-world connections. Maybe some modern-day political cartoons would help, and maybe about events
That's a
that are
good
more
idea.
current for them.
Yeah.
So.
That's a really
Because
good
some
idea.
students have more background knowledge about the civil rights, others have no idea, and
Right.
so.
I think that'll be good.
So modern and what do you want to say, classic civil rights cartoons?
I think so. All right.
Okay. Assignments and assessments. Where will students be required to use this strategy?
This will be a daily class assignment.
Well, a weekly classes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Weekly class assignment.
You can do it every day if you want.
No, that would be too much.
It would be. That's a lot of work on our end.
Yeah, I'm already out of poster paper again.
Yeah.
All right, since we've talked a lot about connections with these students and building their connections stronger, because this group is pretty good at it, it can always be better. What if we incorporate an exit slip?
I think that would be great, and just have them
Okay.
maybe just make explicit connections as their exit slip, because again, we teach thematically, so everything that we do all connects back together, and getting them to realize those connections would be ideal. Because sometimes, I mean, in the beginning of the year, you obviously spell it out for them, but towards, I mean, we're in third quarter now,
Right.
almost in fourth quarter, they should know how things connect.
Right.
So,
Right.
I think
And
an exit slip would be great.
It'll kind of give someone the safety valve. If they're unsure about something but don't want to raise their hand in class, they can kind
Right.
of whisper it to you on the exit slip. And
Exactly.
Give
And
you
this
a
will be a
chance to
good
do it.
individual activity. We do so much collaboratively. This will
Yeah.
definitely be individual. So, how many times do you think? How often?
We could do an exit slip a few times a week on connections. I mean, we obviously do exit slips or some sort of wrap-up strategy every
Right.
day, but
But focus
specific
on the
connection exit
connections
slips.
2
we
to
could
3
do
times a week?
2 to 3 times a week, yeah.
we'll just incorporate that into what we already got. Yeah.
Sounds good. Materials?
I have my kids just use either a half sheet of computer paper, a sticky note, or
Note cards are always good.
Note cards.
We do a lot of note cards.
Index cards.
All right, and then how will students be required to use our strategy? just be a daily class assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Daily procedure, got it.
Yeah. And they're already, using it, and they're already prepared.
Yeah,
So
it's
it'll
not
just
like
be
they'll
one
be
more
like, actually,
step.
it's like, what's that?
Mine will. What is this?
I don't understand.
All right.
I can't wait.
I know. Our intervention students.
We didn't do far to go.
Oh, we didn't. You're right. We didn't. I was jumping ahead. All right. Far to go, but likely.
I think our prioritized next step is very similar to the students who are close to proficient, but they need to determine text-to-world connections between political cartoons and current events.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. So text-to-world connections. As our prioritized next step. All right. Now, a lot of these instructional strategies can definitely cross over,
Yeah.
and I think will
They
help
all-
our students who are
they
far to
all
go.
do.
They do. Definitely the poster analysis.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be, for that two groups the most.
I think you're right. And these two groups are so close in what they need.
And there's not a whole lot of difference between, besides a couple points on the test, when you're looking at their grades and
Right.
what they missed, it's a matter of one or two questions.
Right.
So,
We had also talked about, and we haven't mentioned this yet, but we were brainstorming for the unit, we talked about snapshots. And writing about what they see. Where would that fit in? Would it fit in and be beneficial for one of these groups?
I think snapshots would be really beneficial. It gets them kind of thinking about the picture in a way that they normally wouldn't, or gets them deeper into the thinking of the
And it
picture.
gets them thinking about just the analysis, so we could put that at the beginning of class and
Okay.
Tie it
do
in
that.
maybe with the writing
Or-
invitations, or
Yeah, I think
maybe
you're right.
take a writing invitation one day, looking at a picture, and another political cartoon, we can switch it up
Yeah.
there.
yeah, so snapshots with writing.
Snapshots.
Yes, I like that. And again, that's, something individual. And if we check these periodically, we can monitor their growth that way. And we don't have anybody dependent on the rest of their group. All right. So this is part of our writing invitations, the daily.
So, the writing invite would be daily, and then the poster analysis would be the same as the others?
Yeah,
Is that the
Yeah, I
same?
think so.
2 times,
Daily.
once a week.
All right. Supplies, photographs.
Same as the other.
Yeah, all
Poster
this good
paper,
stuff.
Photos, political cartoons.
I think another material is just a quick mini lesson, and like very mini when I say mini, but just how to do a snapshot.
Yes,
And
yes,
kind
we
of model
definitely
that-
need,
Model
yes.
that for the students.
I think you're right. All right, and as far as snapshots for where will students be required to use this strategy?
Daily warm-up,
Yeah. That sounds good.
that'll be good.
Okay.
Now you get to
No
your
intervention, sorry.
That's right.
No intervention, I'm trying to rush it. I think these are the students that will benefit most from that direct instruction.
They will, and they need that direct instruction.
You're right, they do. So our prioritized next step for them will be what?
We have to get them thinking beyond surface level.
Mhm.
So I think a prioritized next step could be just identifying the surface level meaning of graphic representations based
Okay.
on background knowledge.
I think that's good. Al?
Yeah, just reinforce them on this means this, and did you see this? Because some of them, they don't look at the pictures or cartoons close enough, so
Right.
make them point out what it is that they really need to be seeing.
You said surface level based on background knowledge.
Yes.
I like that. All right, so how do we do it?
I think I saw a graphic organizer, kind of in my head I have it pictured where you would break it down for them so that
Okay.
they fill out each little box of different parts of the cartoon or different parts of the picture that they have to look at. Rather
Okay.
than, that way it kind of, they know where to direct their attention. Because again, they're just kind of looking at it like, well, I don't know. And so if you
Right.
give them little tiny pieces to break it apart and analyze it, That would be a really,
Okay.
So instead of saying, what do you see, say, look here and find this. Make it kind of a search for it.
I like
exactly.
that. I like that. So a graphic organizer would be our
Yeah.
strategy.
Yep.
How do we want them? I don't want to overload them by turning them loose. Do you think maybe a gradual release, like a think, pair, share, so some think time, and we can monitor, and then small group, and then whole group?
Yeah, I think that would benefit best, especially for these intervention students, so they
Yeah.
can get to thinking about themselves, but then collaborate with others and get some new ideas from them as well, so they're not just feeling overwhelmed.
And if we're doing the writing invitations, whole group, and discuss those, that'll give them, even
Right.
those who are having trouble with the concepts, they can at least listen in and, if nothing else, parrot what they got going on
Yeah.
until they can work it on their own.
Yes, I like that. All right, how often?
Weekly.
Okay.
Have them just really do it in depth weekly.
Okay.
That'll work.
All right, materials,
We need a graphic organizer.
Yeah. Graphic
Yeah.
organizers.
and that mini lesson on what are the features.
Yeah.
So we'll have to learn that. The graphic organizer, the cartoons, because we said that, you know, they're doing okay with the photographs. I think the next level of learning we're looking at is the political cartoons.
And those have a lot more deeper meanings.
Yes, they do.
Than just some photographs.
Yes, they do. And then where and when is group
Just collaboration, yeah.
group collaboration.
Yeah, and just, yeah.
Okay. What else for these intervention students would help, do you think?
I think they would benefit after we take them that baby step of doing a graphic organizer and going over how do you analyze a political cartoon. I think they would also benefit from the poster analysis like the other two groups.
I think you're right. So we can just move all that into the intervention box as well. And I think that if we pair these groups right, they'll learn from each other as well. So there's a reciprocal
Yeah.
teaching strategy built in.
And we've got the differentiation worked in where it's not really obvious.
Exactly.
You guys that you can't figure it out, you gotta do this.
Everyone
Wait, I
else
was going to
sit
tell them
quietly.
that.
Yeah, well,
Since you were this low, you
yeah, it
go
brings
sit
it in
in the
there
corner.
a lot more naturally.
Yeah, I think you're
You'll be
right.
the only person doing this.
That's right.
So,
All right.
then the posters.
Yeah, and anything else for the intervention students?
Again, just the writing invitations.
Writing invitations every
The
day.
constant everyday
Mhm.
practice and everyday thinking about it
I think you're right.
until it becomes something that they're used to.